It is 7 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, for attending this evening. We will get started with B, which is Part 1, our budget hearing. The proposed district budget for the 2016-2017 school year has been prepared and distributed to the Board of Education members and is available to all interested patrons from the treasurer. I believe there's copies, if I saw some copies over there as well. The purpose of Part 1 of the Board of Education meeting August 15, 2016 is to provide for a public hearing on the proposed 2016-2017 budget as required by state statute. So, is there anyone here in the audience wishing to speak about our proposed budget this evening? Okay, seeing no one, then this budget hearing is closed, and we will move on to our regular meeting. D1, Dr. Henson.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodburn. As you know, for some students, the school year started this past Friday. For students in grades 1 through 12, school started today for all of those students, and kindergartners start tomorrow. And so tomorrow will be our first full day for all students in the school district. This time of the year, our process is always to try to start looking at enrollment. We did add 4 teachers this last week due to enrollment. We have 3 buildings right now that are on that watch list. They're on that bubble, if you will, for the addition of additional teachers. That could change tomorrow, one way or another. More buildings, fewer buildings. And so over the next couple of days, we'll monitor enrollment very carefully. And so certainly we could be adding additional personnel as we go through the next several days. But thus far, knock on wood, we're off to a great start in that regard. An interesting tidbit for you as we deal with transfers on an annual basis, we have over 2,100 students that are transferring to a different building from their home area. This year alone, we had 486 transfer requests. We were able to accommodate some of those requests, but not all. 163 requests for this year alone were denied because of capacity issues in buildings in grade levels as well. But there are over 2,100 students that are transferring from the area in which they live in the Shawnee Mission School District. So we'll continue to monitor enrollment. Again, we have 3 buildings, some class sizes we're monitoring today. We'll see what happens over the next couple of days. Certainly we could add some additional personnel over the next couple of days. I'm pleased to announce tonight that the Clay Blair Family Foundation has generously donated $75,000 to recognize and support high school teachers in their classrooms. This donation will allow for 50 of our high school teachers to receive $1,000 in unrestricted funds. Those payment will be made to them for whatever they want to do with that amount of money, and also for $500 specifically for each of these 50 teachers for classroom use. Staff members selected for these awards will be made aware of this recognition on August 30 at the staff meeting in their building. And again, a thanks to the Clay Blair Family Foundation for the $75,000 going to teachers at our high schools. As we begin a new academic year, I wanted to highlight just some, not all, the list would be really long, of the key areas of focus of which we'll be working on. These initiatives are directly connected to our strategic plan, which was developed with input from our community, and serve as a guide for our work as we build our culture, leadership, and learning in the school district. The plan addresses the 7 themes of focus, and I've grouped these into areas, and I want to highlight some of these tonight. Again, these are some, it's not all inclusive. So let's start with academics. Comprehensive or universal early education. It's in our strategic plan. It's one of our areas of focus. We're going to talk about it more later on in the board meeting tonight as we talk about Head Start and Jump Start. Very instrumental for us as we move forward. Middle School Task Force. Again, it's under reports tonight. I'm going to mention it a little bit later in the presentation. Curriculum maps. Exciting endeavor for us. Project Lead the Way expansion, some of which you're aware. We'll remind you more of it later on as well. Development and expansion of signature programs. And reminding you the review of the high school program of studies, which started last school year. They're going to pick that up again in a couple of weeks. You'll hear a lot about that over the course of the fall. So it's one of our areas of focus this year academically. Facilities, I'll try to keep this brief. A few things going on with facilities. Attendance area boundary changes. I've talked a lot over the course of this last year that we're looking potentially at attendance area boundary changes. So after the September membership count, we will carefully look at enrollment by attendance area. I have communicated with all the city managers, asking them for any type of development that is planned or projected for the future that'll be residential. So the cities have been great responding to us, so we'll plot all of that information, and as we go through the course of the fall into early second semester, we're going to talk about, do we need to make attendance area boundary changes? I'm going to talk about that a little more later on as well. We have on our agenda tonight to acquire property for an additional elementary school in the west attendance area. You'll recall in the bond issue campaign, we talked about 5 new elementary schools, 1 in each high school attendance area, and we have that property acquisition on the agenda for tonight. I'll talk about it again a little bit more, but Briarwood, Trailwood, and Crestview all move into brand new elementary schools this year. The South Stadium renovation will start hopefully this fall. Aquatic Center construction, HVAC upgrades, turf fields, a little bit about facilities. And again, Dr. Southwest is going to talk a little bit more about some of those issues in detail when we get to the report in relation to construction. Community and marketing. Again, just some of the key areas we're focusing on. Continued development of our strategic partnerships. Implementation of a new district web presence. We're on target to issue an RFP for the new district web presence in September. So certainly that will be a different or a new way of looking at our district web presence. Reviewing and developing our comprehensive marketing plan, our branding plan. I do want to recognize that we did have over the last several months a group of volunteers from the community that are, I'm going to call them communication or public relations experts. Dean Davison, John Stevens, Kathy Collins, Shawnee Samuel, and Mike Swanson. They worked extensively on making some recommendations, giving us some ideas in relation to communication and public relations and branding. So we'll continue to look at that very carefully. I do anticipate the September board meeting to be able to talk to you far more in detail in relation to this plan, their recommendations, and how we're going to move forward. So stay tuned. And again, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that issue again when we get to the reports later on in the board meeting. You can see again in relation to volunteer engagement. Student-employee well-being, the social-emotional learning tying into character education. You'll hear more, but we've slowed a little bit the Character Education Task Force as we learned a lot over the last several months about our trauma-informed care, our social-emotional learning as well. In the committee, individuals looking at how does it dovetail with character education. Our employee wellness resources as we move into our new facility, and also working with the city of Lenexa in relation to sharing resources for employee wellness, one of our focuses for not this coming school year, I now have to say this school year, the current school year. Technology, the SunGuard Business Plus. This is a very, very extensive, laborious, but necessary process. It's our new business, finance, and human resources software. So this transition takes a tremendous number of employee hours, but it's very, very important for that to occur in the district. You're going to see the new data center, disaster recovery site, the Cisco security license agreement. We're going to migrate Wi-Fi services for greater capacity, and evaluation and implementation of an employee time tracking system. Well, what does that mean? So now when classified employees punch the time clock, if you will, so with our new business and finance and HR software, we have to integrate that system into the new system so it all flows seamlessly. It's great after it's implemented, but again, this is a significant endeavor from our human resources and our business and finance office as well. Resources. Hopefully, we'll have a new school finance formula this school year. The Supreme Court is going to receive briefs, and they've been filed already. The written briefs have been filed in relation to adequacy in the Gannon case. And so the court will receive that information in September, those oral arguments. So in relation to resources, we would anticipate having a ruling from the Supreme Court in relation to adequacy this school year. Based on their decision, we'll see how the legislature will respond, and certainly we need a new school finance formula this year and how it impacts us. So that we'll spend a lot of time in relation to our resources category looking at state funding. And safety and security implementation of our enhanced security features for all of our schools to meet our district-wide security standard. Our goal, and everything that you see before you, obviously, is we're fully committed to continuous improvement by all of us in each aspect of our organization. For more information, something that's new for us about the specific progress, you'll see a little outline of it there. I'm going to call it a scorecard, but we're going to roll out over the next couple of weeks a new update where our community can keep track of our strategic plan goals. A little hard to see on the screen because there are a lot of those goals, but it's something that we're going to roll out through our website in print form where you can actually see, and it's color-coded by the goal and the timeline for completion. So something that's different in relation to our communication process. As I mentioned, under the facilities initiatives, we have a number of buildings currently under construction. So we continue to make great progress on the new buildings in our district, a part of the bond issue approved by our voters in January of 2015. So I'm pleased to announce our tentative move-in dates for these district facilities. Briarwood and Trailwood are scheduled to move in to their new buildings this school year over the winter break. So the schedules for those students are slightly altered at those buildings prior to and immediately thereafter the winter break. But again, we are on schedule to move into the new Briarwood and the new Trailwood over winter break. Crestview Elementary School, we're on target to move in over spring break. So we moved into Shawnee this immediate past spring break. We're going to move into Briarwood, Trailwood, and then Crestview this next spring break. Ryan Benninghoven Elementary School, we will move into that new facility prior to school starting next year, so prior to the 17-18 school year. The Center for Academic Achievement, early in 2017, we still have discussion about what early 2017 means. Remember that facility is funded through capital outlay, and I will talk a little bit more about the name on that facility later on in the presentation today. It seems almost like yesterday we were talking about a bond issue, we were celebrating the results of the bond issue, and now we're moving into new buildings. So what an exciting opportunity for our students and our employees, but we're about ready to see these projects, some of these projects come to fruition. So an exciting time for us in relation to construction and new facilities. Dr. Southwick's going to talk to us a little more tonight about construction.
Dr. Henson, you've stolen all my thunder. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about our new facilities, although every day we have to thank our community for the work and the support that they've provided us to be able to provide new facilities. But I also want to mention our principals, our teaching staff, our cooks, and all of our students and parents. In this transition period, it's not easy to move out of your building across town into another building and all of a sudden start school up. And we've been we're going to be a year and a half to a year and 3/4 with these schools, and there's just no concern or no trouble coming out of those buildings, and that would not happen if we didn't have a great coordinated effort with all those people. So I have to publicly thank them tonight for that work, and I know that our move-ins will be exciting. And we'll have some additional news coming up for you on some other sites that we're looking at for improvement. Next month, and I previewed it today, I'm going to have a really quick slideshow for you to give you an idea of the scope of the work that was done this summer in the rest of our buildings. It's not always what we bring to highlight, but Bob Robinson showed me a a list that staff have put together with pictures that show before and after of the work that was done this summer, and it's just absolutely short of amazing, the work that was able to be done. And I've got to thank Bob and Rick Foster, Tim Wilcox, and Tyler for all the work they've done, but also our grounds people. Last week worked in 100-degree heat to get grass cut. We probably didn't have much grow after they cut it. But, I noticed coming to work across Santa Fe, and last week I saw grass growing up inside the cracks of the playground. I thought, well, that didn't look good. I drove by this morning, every bit of that was gone and ready for students. That's the quality of people that we have that work for us, and I just can't say enough about the work they do to get our schools ready. But we never arrive, so however we are right now, we'll continue to work on them all year long and next year to try to make that environment better for our students and our staff and our community. So, again, since I don't get to talk much about buildings and when they open and how we've communicated, that's my report for tonight, Dr. Hinson.
Thank you, Dr. Southwick. Thank you, Mrs. Goodburn.
Okay. Okay, F1, we move to open forum. Is there anyone tonight? No. Okay, we move past open forum then. G1, approval of the minutes from the organizational meeting of July 25th, 2016.
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Ms. Bisfield. Thank you, Ms. Sela. Okay, Ms. Sela. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0 tonight. Okay, do we move to G2? Approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of July 25th, 2016.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Denny.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Mack? Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, we move to H1, which is the adoption of the agenda for the meeting tonight.
Move for adoption.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton.
Second.
Was that Ms. Sela?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Sela. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Okay, now we move to I1, which is the approval of routine business by consent. Is there any board member wishing to remove anything from this consent agenda this evening?
I would move approval of routine business by consent.
Thank you, Ms. Sela.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bisfield. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, so that moves us past the consent agenda then to P1, Administrative Services. Dr. Hinson.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodburn. P1 is our annual memorandum of agreement with Growing Futures Early Education Center. We might call that Head Start, if you will. We do this, we're required to do this on an annual basis. And simply what this means is, for the purpose of this agreement, the qualifying expenditures, which is determined by the state and the federal level, the qualifying expenditures from Growing Futures are included in the documents that we send to the state for reimbursement. So it's a great partnership, collaboration in that process, specifically in relation to parents as teachers. So again, the partnership is that you are approving that the qualifying Growing Futures expenditures through Head Start, we include in our numbers, we submit for reimbursement, and then that money is remitted back to Growing Futures. So it's just a part of the partnership that occurs. Questions on that issue, but before you hopefully give us the green light on that, I also want to pause to say Growing Futures, the Early Ed Center, they do a phenomenal job in our community. They're a great partner. I'm meeting with their leadership in the next couple of weeks to talk about how do we just grow that partnership that we really have in place. And so again, I really want to commend the work they do in relation to Head Start and early education, but the MOU before you tonight is for the specific purpose that I've stated.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I would move approval.
Thank you, Ms. Bisfield. Second. Thank you, Ms. Mack. Any discussion?
I have a comment more than a discussion, probably. I think some people still wonder if it's Shawnee Mission, Head Start, and for a couple of years now, it's been Growing Futures. So because I've had people ask when they see Growing Futures, they wonder what happened to Head Start. That was why I thought I might bring it up.
Okay. We have motion before us, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, Q1.
Q1, Dr. Atha, if you would join us tonight at the podium. We have Q1 and Q2. Dr. Atha will explain both of those at the same time. You can vote on those separately, but personnel policies and compensation for non-exempt classified employees. Dr. Atha?
As Dr. Henson stated, I'd like to draw your attention to our classified, both non-exempt and exempt employees, which make up a significant number of our employees. They're a very important, critical part of our Team 512, and most of their work is behind the scenes, supporting our students. There are 5 salary schedules that you have before you this evening. One of them is related to our exempt classified, and the other 4 in reference to our non-exempt. So what we're asking this evening, recommending to you to consider, is a 2% in their compensation, 2% base salary increase across all of the schedules. That would give every classified employee in these salary schedules a 2% raise. We would not give a step, nor would we give a stipend. The total cost of this package would be approximately $522,000, and if approved this evening, would go into effect, I believe, August 26th, which would be their next paycheck.
I have a question, Dr. Atha. Does this schedule, this movement on this schedule, make us real competitive with our neighboring school districts so that we can attract the best?
We're always looking at what the market will bear in paying our employees so that we can recruit and retain the best staff that we can. I think this will move us that direction. It will make us more competitive, but we're still not there, even with the approval this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I move for approval.
Second. Of Q1?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Ms.
I would
Mack.
second, please.
Thank you, Ms. Seeler. Is there any other discussion on Q1? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Q2?
So moved.
Thank you. Dr. Denny?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Dr. Atha. Okay, we move to R1. Dr. Henson.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodburn. We have before you tonight a component of what we're doing. I didn't want you to bring this to you in isolation of the bigger picture. And so what we have before you tonight, and while I introduce, I'm going to ask Mrs. Levins if she would come to the microphone tonight. What we have before you tonight is a site license agreement with KCP&L for the Center for Academic Achievement, or the name that's going to exist in the future, and allows KCP&L to construct and maintain electric vehicle supply equipment stations on the first one of our campuses. But it's a part of an overall package that Mrs. Levins has been working on. And so, again, I didn't want to bring this to you in isolation. I want you to have an understanding of everything that we're working on in relation to sustainability and community engagement. So, Mrs. Levins, welcome tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Hinson, members of the Board of Education, friends and colleagues, it's a pleasure to be here this evening, and thank you for the opportunity to share what's going on in Shawnee Mission in terms of sustainability and community engagement. My charge as coordinator of sustainability and community engagement are these 5 things. I'm not going to dwell on them very long, but it's essentially to develop district sustainability goals as the top priority, a district comprehensive landscape plan, coordinate with curriculum instruction, create a master plan for the district for composting and recycling programs, and to leverage partnerships through community engagement in our district. and grant writing to support our district initiatives. We decided to launch the process of identifying our school sustainability goals by engaging our youth. We decided they were our future, we want to build their leadership. So we hosted a Sustainability Youth Summit at Johnson County Community College. We invited an interdisciplinary team of students and faculty representing the environmental sciences, the arts, and social studies from each of our 6 high schools, and they gathered at the community college. The Community College Center for Sustainability hosted us and provided an overview of our opportunities. Johnson County's Sustainability Manager, Jasmine Moore, facilitated the process, and professionals and community elected officials joined our students in the discussion to help them identify their goals. So they identified 5 goals, and what is amazing to all of us is that they aligned very closely with the existing goals that we had under development. So these are their 5 goals. They're focused, or their priorities are focused on gardens and natural areas and facilities for environmental purposes, education and awareness and student involvement, efficiency. They identified energy and water. We've lumped our recycling and composting there. Transportation alternatives, and health and well-being, which we thought was very, these are just excellent places for us to focus our attention. The first Sustainability Youth Summit priority, gardens and natural areas, aligns closely with the second goal in my job description, which is a comprehensive district-wide landscape plan using state-of-the-art ecological design principles to increase student achievement, improve environmental quality, and serve our community. So we started with the Center for Academic Achievement. That landscape plan for the Center for Academic Achievement is an example of some of the principles that we plan to implement district-wide. A portion of the grounds will be planted in native grasses and wildflowers rather than capturing stormwater in a single detention area. We are installing a series of ponds and streamways which will mimic nature, filter pollution, and improve water quality as the water filters through our property. We're working with a number of folks within the district as well as community partners to move the Broadmoor Urban Farm from the Broadmoor Center over to the Center for Academic Achievement. We're looking at hopefully writing some proposals to support a greenhouse, and have lots of great partnerships making that happen, including our K-State folks, K-State partners. We have a landscape advisory planning team. We met with them in February, and we've got some leaders in landscape architecture, engineering, and sustainability meeting with us, along with 2 students from our engineering program, Project Lead the Way. They were juniors last year. They will be seniors this year, so we'll continue to incorporate them into our work. They're working with their instructor, Mr. Greg Teal. Then a subgroup of that planning committee continued to work on their own time as volunteers. They held a charrette, a half-day charrette, and went through these plans for Crestview, Trailwood, and Briarwood to look for further opportunities, and we are actually implementing those plans in the next few months. We would like to expand that advisory planning team to include our municipal partners. We're recognizing that we have 14 municipalities, which is very unusual. I'm understanding more and more the complexities and how unusual that is for school districts to have 14 municipal partners, each with their own permitting processes and standards. We'd like to see parity across our district for all of our district properties, so we would hope to incorporate those folks into our team to help achieve that. We're looking at sustainable land management from the maintenance perspective. We recognize that sustainable landscapes require different maintenance strategies, so we're working with our custodial staff and regional partners to identify strategies for maintenance that use best practices for our region, our landscapes, our climate, and incorporate the skill sets that we have within our district. We're also working with Mid-America Regional Council to help with training of our staff on a regional basis. So, school gardens and natural areas have been a part of the Shawnee Mission School District for a number of years. I know I met Mrs. Goodburn first by the side of a garden at Roseland Elementary years and years ago when our children were quite small. So there's a long tradition, but we would like to resurrect and further implement that tradition. We have identified food gardens, native habitat gardens, and natural areas such as Shawnee Mission South Smeasel as opportunities for student learning and making sure that those things are embedded in curriculum. The second Youth Summit priority aligns closely with the third goal for this position, which is to coordinate with curriculum instruction, education and awareness, and student involvement. We had the STEM curriculum coordinators for elementary, middle, and high school help facilitate our Youth Summit, so they were right there in the room as the students were identifying these priorities. And as a result of the summit, Dr. Aaron Smith is leading an effort to coordinate with, embed all four of the 5 student priorities into curriculum. So our first in-service day will be September 13th. We'll pull together curriculum coordinators, environmental sciences high school teachers who provide some elementary programming, and then these partners, Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks and Tourism, Kansas City Community Gardens, KC Healthy Kids, and again, as I said, our high school environmental sciences coordinators or instructors. The goal is to use these resources. They each have either funding and or curriculum and or technical expertise they're willing to share with us to help us advance this cause. So I'm very grateful to those partners. Again, they're all doing this as part of their programming. The third Youth Summit priority is efficiency, and we'll start with energy. In Shawnee Mission, we have 11 Energy Star buildings that have achieved Energy Star status. That means that they're performing in the top 25% of energy efficiency nationwide. And the list of those schools are there. There's Apache pictured. As part of that plan, before you tonight, you have, pending your approval, a site license for KCP&L to install 3 level 2 charging stations. These will be installed at the Center for Academic Achievement. Each charging station has 2 portals, and they can charge an all-electric vehicle in 8 to 10 hours. The goal of KCP&L is to make Kansas City a center for electric vehicle advancement. They intend to have 2,000 or 1,000 charging stations charging 2,000 vehicles in the near future. The district will pay the costs for the electricity consumed during the first 2 years, and after that, the users will pay for the electricity. KCP&L will bear all costs for maintenance of those facilities. So electric vehicles are a benefit because they result in fewer emissions and are more energy efficient than internal combustion engines used to power conventional vehicles. In water, we've already discussed our stormwater management planning, which is our landscape planning. That will enable our city partners to be in compliance with their Clean Water Act Phase 2 or NPDES regulations. And at the Center for Academic Achievement, we do intend to capture and reuse stormwater there. We're pulling rainwater off the roof, capturing it in an in-ground cistern, and then we'll use it to irrigate the Broadmoor Urban Farm. And just this is getting into our kids' curriculum. Our Trailwood 6th graders develop plans for cisterns, gardens, and water features. A fantastic job. We had a panel of professionals listening to their presentations, and we were in awe of their level of complexity and forward thinking and innovation, and those plans have all been forwarded to our architects. Regarding recycling and composting, I've been saying we have 20 schools, but as of today, we have 21 schools. Shawnee Mission South came online today that are composting, 16 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 3 high schools. This year, thank you to the leadership of Nancy Kokenauer, Food Services Director, our kitchens will also be composting their waste from their production. And as Ms. Kokenauer says, there should be very little waste. They're very efficient, very efficient. And actually, we've seen, we are generating almost no trash at Shawnee Mission South because of the planning of the food services group. There is much of what they put on the line is compostable. We have no styrofoam. We have very little plastic. 10 more schools will come online this year in 2016-17 from these 3 attendance areas. By the end of 2018, all of our schools' administrative buildings will be online. So just as an aside, we have an average of diversion rate of 70%, which is actually quite high in our school cafeterias, so we should congratulate ourselves. The students are doing a great job. I'd like to just recognize one of our partners at this point. We could not have made this progress this year, building upon the foundation laid by our PTA moms and volunteers, our administrators, and our community partners, without the support of the staff and expertise from Johnson County Department of Health and Environment. These folks, tonight you approved a donation from that department, their solid waste diversion program. Last spring, they provided $4,648 in stipends and stretched those dollars to provide equipment for 19 schools. That's quite something. That enabled us to begin to standardize our recycling and composting across all of our buildings. And just last week, as we began to start to incur some of those expenses ourselves, and in sharing that story, they notified us that they plan to support another 7 schools this school year. So 26 schools will receive color-coded bins and support for their composting. Not only do they provide this equipment, but they weigh our trash and our recycling and our compost so that we know we have the 70% diversion rate. They certify that for us. So Ms. Gardner, Sadie Gardner, is here representing our colleagues in the program. I'd like her to stand to be recognized for the contribution of funding, technical assistance, and staff support that's offered to supplement our dedicated volunteers. So thank you very much. So the final 2, sustainability or Youth Summit priorities, are transportation alternatives and health and well-being. These are, we're finding that they're very interrelated. We're working with Bike Walk KC, and again, these are almost every one of these efforts has been grassroots. This is, all we are doing is catching the threads and pulling them together and standardizing across the district. These are all community initiatives. Bike Walk KC is currently working with Trailwood Elementary, conducting a walkability study in order to make that area more walkable and encourage more students to walk. Roland Park is the one city with one school, and the attendance area for Roseland Elementary is almost entirely within that city boundary. So we are working with a city council member, their Caring for Kids team, and their PTA president to develop a bike-to-school plan that we can then take district-wide. So it'll be like a toolkit of best practices that we can share district-wide. And I know there are others. For example, Corinth's nurse leads a Walking Wednesdays. I went by schools today and saw the bike racks full. I know that this is all well underway, but these are just sort of what we see at this point and what we'd like to capitalize on. And then the health and well-being, our students identified a broad definition to include mental health, physical health, dietary health, as well as healthy buildings. And then student innovation was a piece of what they also included into health and well-being. And we're learning with our Resilient KC that student voice and student ability to participate and contribute is important. So watch this space is what we're saying here. And we've mentioned the school gardens. We're also on the Johnson County Food Policy Council, helping address the issue of food deserts and food scarcity within our area. And the last thing is that's on my list, wasn't on the students' list, but it's to leverage partnerships through community engagement and grant writing to support our district initiatives. And it has been a pleasure to, again, as I say, draw the threads together, capitalize on the relationships that this district already has that are so strong. We've survived and thrived because of the support of our community. So it's been an easy task to pull this all together. I'd like to also mention that KDHE, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, provided Green Schools grants for 11 of our schools. We wrote those in partnership, 8 of them in partnership with the Interurban Art House. But those grants will support environmental arts programming, field trips, as well as the equipment that we've talked about with the other schools. And then we have 2 proposals that are pending that you'll hear about later. But there's no possible way to recognize all of our partners and stakeholders, but they are myriad. I've tried to mention some of them within this presentation, but very grateful to, again, the support of our community in making all this possible. So would love, if you all have questions, would be happy to answer.
I have a comment more so. When my kids were in school, the natural part of it was somebody building a birdhouse or a butterfly garden or maybe even a water feature, and then those kids would leave and it was not sustainable anymore. So to hear all these great things district-wide going on under your leadership, because I think you have done an amazing job with this. You say you're catching all the threads, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just take the great ideas and spread them around, which is just amazing. And I just want to commend you for your efforts. And this is so impressive, and looks like it's only going up from here. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Could you give us an update on the status of the big bins at each of the schools that we've been using to recycle as well?
The outside the buildings?
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, and again, Ms. Gardner has pulled together our city partners. We had a meeting of all of the solid waste professionals within each of our municipalities meet out at Johnson County government buildings to discuss how to to make our messaging common. We believe we have community members who may believe they are still contributing to our school district when they recycle in our recycle bins, even though all those bins say Eco Rewards, Abitibi, and Town and Country, they are all WCA bins, Waste Corporation of America. It is a free service to us, but we do not receive, the market is down for recyclables, so we do not receive any money back for the recycling. And sometimes the bins are full and our own folks are not able to use them, our own custodial staff. So we're working with Ms. Gardner, and we've actually, I believe we're close to arriving at wording that we can use. We're test driving it over at Belinda Elementary right now. So trying to be welcoming, we want to encourage our community members to recycle, but in Johnson County, it is an included service if you are a residential homeowner. It is not, you just get a bin and put it out there, it gets picked up, it's included. But if there are apartment dwellers, we do at all of our high schools have recycle bins out in the parking lots that are kind of away from the buildings, and our apartment multifamily homes dwellers are welcome to recycle there.
Another quick question is just more curiosity. So when the consumer's using these electronic charging stations, how do they do it? Like, we go to the gas pump and they swipe and they're
Yes,
charged?
yes, it will be that kind of a pay system.
Okay.
Yes, it'll be that. And I should have looked up I did hear about this at a Chamber of Commerce meeting, and I was astounded at the low cost
Yeah.
of filling one of these vehicles. So we should not expect to have huge expenses for those first 2 years.
Thanks.
Yes, Ms. Beck?
I just wanted to say thank you as well. I know that you're also monitoring the 14 municipalities and development, stormwater development, streetscaping, et cetera, and how it really does have an impact on our students walking to school, et cetera. So I just wanted to say thank you for doing that
Thank
as
you.
well, on top of everything else you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Levens. Mrs. Goodburn, the motion before the board tonight is a license agreement with KCP&L for KCP&L to construct and maintain electric vehicle supply equipment stations.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Seela.
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Denny. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, we move to R2, approval purchase of land.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodburn. I highlighted earlier our desire and need to construct an additional elementary school in the west attendance area. As I have mentioned many times, we've been working diligently for quite some time to try to find property in the western portion of our school district to construct an additional facility or facilities. We have a section of property tonight. It's 25.18 acres. It's located at the northwest corner of 87th and Haven Street in Lenexa. So if you're on 87th, you will go, and you're headed, I'm going to call that west-northwest. You will go past the site where we're going to construct the Aquatic Center, which will be on your left, prior to arriving at the National Guard Armory. So there's I'll go from the other side. So you have our baseball complex, National Guard Armory, and you'll see a really level piece of property. That's the 25.18 acres. So it is for the construction of the new elementary school in the west attendance area. The purchase price is $1.7 million plus closing cost, real estate, and attorney fees. Those are estimated at $135,000. So after a very, very extensive search from bond proceeds would be the approval of the purchase of the land that we bring to you tonight.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Denny.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bisfield. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, we have R3, adoption of the 2016-2017 budget.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodburn. Mr. Knapp, if you'll join us tonight, you'll recall and remind you of the process. So Mr. Knapp was with us at the July board meeting, and so you've had the documents in relation to our August budget book, the state budget book, the profile information, and the budget at a glance. So somewhere I have that stack of documents that you have as well. So all these wonderful documents. And so we had the opportunity, if anyone at the public hearing wanted to comment, but again, this is the second opportunity. So we were here in July on the issue, reminding you we're here earlier in August than our normal meeting to meet the state requirement in relation to the publishing of our budget. And so we do this every August. We have to meet earlier to meet this timeline. And so we have the total published budget in the amount of $455,459,533 for the 16-17 school year. You have the documentation. We have the expert with us tonight, and certainly be happy to entertain questions.
Any questions?
I have no questions, but that is an impressive document, I'll tell you. And, you know, cross-checking between the different documents that you gave us, it's an amazing, the detail that gets into, down to everything. So, thank you. I'm still a little overwhelmed by it, but it's impressive and very, very thorough.
Thank you. We also should thank Allison Starosky over here, a budget analyst over my left-hand shoulder. She put a lot of all this together.
I'm going to make it very clear tonight, this is a deficit budget. So Russ, if you would give us the deficit amount and what that does or does not include, please.
The deficit is approximately $2 million. It does not include the raises that you approved tonight or any raises that you're going to approve with the teachers' negotiation down the road. Most likely, we will come back to you and have to republish the budget. That's part of state statute. It's allowed. We'll come back probably in the spring once we have a better idea what our expenditures are going to be.
The other, I don't know if it's a valid concern or not. I think it probably should be a valid concern in relation to the state fiscal picture. What will happen with state revenues for us during this year? Will the state have the ability to continue to fund us at the level they've committed to funding us this year? I hope the answer is yes. Could we see allocations, withholdings? That's a possibility. So I'll remind you that our fund balance is about $15 million. We have the contingency reserve, which is on top of that, which is really an emergency reserve. And so certainly we have a deficit budget this year, and we are counting on our state funding us at the level that they've committed. As we go forward, again, we'll see what happens with an adequacy decision from the court. Certainly see what a new school finance formula looks like as well. Those two issues will be very significant issues for us from a budgetary standpoint going forward. So this year, certainly deficit spending. We work through that very carefully and try to make those projections as well. So I'm comfortable with the deficit spending. Certainly, we need a new formula and a new formula that is beneficial to all school districts in the state. But we're in that position now. We've done everything we can to try to reallocate and reallocate. Now we're in a position where we have to tap into reserves. Be happy to answer any questions about that at all.
Just a question for you, Dr. Hinson. If, okay, we have a $15 million budget revenue that we are holding here, and tell us how much 1 month of our paying our bills, paying our salaries, paying all of that would cost us.
Well, it's more than 15 million. Russ, you want to give us that number?
It's approximately about $18 million in total expenditures a month.
So we have 15 million in the bank to pay for possibly a month's worth of $18 million.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
okay, just, that's staggering. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Stratton.
I hesitate to bring up a negative scenario, but What if the block grant is extended for a third year? Have you even looked at that kind of scenario and how it freezes our numbers? And
We typically go out about 2-3 years, and the block grant, again, would freeze our revenue. The salaries do carry forward when you put them on the schedule, so that cost does carry forward. If you do a stipend, that's one-time cost, and that does not carry forward. So we would look at having to reallocate again for next year our expenditures to meet what our revenues would come in at.
That's a great question. If we're frozen for the 17-18 fiscal year, I think it would probably bring back some memories that some of you don't want to relive back from '08. It's a very serious issue. And so if you look at our level of funding for the last number of years, if that continues as our costs continue to increase, becomes a very significant issue, and we start potentially could have to make some cuts we really don't want to make. So we will, as we proceed, strongly advocate we need a new school finance formula. Legislature needs to complete that task successfully. I think that has to be, we'll talk about our legislative platform in the next couple of months. It's a very, very serious issue.
Thanks.
I would move approval of the 2016-17 budget.
Second. Thank you, Ms. Bisfield. Thank you, Ms. Sela. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
I'll just tie one piece of that together. It's a question that I frequently receive. So help me understand school finance and school building construction. How do those? So in Shawnee Mission, we do not receive any state funding for any of our construction. So for our bond and interest fund, there is no state funding that comes to the Shawnee Mission School District. That's certainly not the case for a number of school districts in the state. But all of our construction is not impacted by the state fiscal issues because we don't receive state money there. In relation to capital outlay, in capital outlay, we do not receive any equalization from the state. So all of those projects are funded locally. Now, when we get into our operating fund balance, obviously, the state controls how much money we're allowed to spend. You're going to hear a lot of conversation coming up about the spending authority cap. In fact, I have a presentation on it this week. Our most recent calculation, because of the old formula and the block grant this last year, our spending was 261st out of the 286 school districts, the amount of money spent per pupil. And that's controlled by that spending authority cap. So as we talk about equity, that's the issue in relation to the spending authority cap. So really three distinct funds for the purpose of this conversation: general fund, operational fund, capital outlay, bond and interest. And again, we're one of the few districts in the state, we don't receive any state money for capital outlay equalization or any state money for bond and interest equalization either. Thank you, Mrs. Goodburn.
Okay, we move to R4, approval of memorandum of understanding for Aquatic Center Management Services. Dr. Henson. Oh, Dr. Southwick.
I get to talk a little bit. That's,
Your turn.
it's a great thing. We have tonight Fred Logan, who has represented us, and I think is a really exciting venture. Just to recap a little bit, the new aquatics facility, we were able to work through an MOU with the city of Lenexa, where they transferred to us about $1 million in property for us to build our facility, which gave us dollars to move forward to make that a state-of-the-art facility. In talking to Mr. Robinson, who has operated a swimming pool in the past, we made the decision early on that we wanted to look at revenues to build it, but not necessarily have to manage that facility. That's not our expertise. So we worked with Mr. Logan to look at selection through an RFP process of a person that we might be, a group that we might be able to partner with in this facility. So Shawnee Mission School District facility managed by blank. And tonight we have, after several weeks of work, some exciting news. We have before you tonight an MOU agreement that has been crafted in the benefit, I think, of all of our constituents across the area. For us to be able to enter into an MOU agreement with the Johnson County Parks and Recs Department. We've got with us tonight Joe Geller and Rhonda Pollard, who we've worked with quite a bit over the last several months. And they've been the lead on their end, and Bob Robinson and I have worked on the process here. But the real crafter of this is Fred Logan. So I'd ask Fred to come up and say a few words about our process and where we are. And
Thank you, Dr. Southwick. Fred Logan, good to be before you. Madam Chair, members of the board. A couple of things. Dr. Henson alluded earlier to projects that came about as a result of the bond election, and this is one of those projects as well. That wonderful 80.17% yes result that our patrons voted on that. One of the projects that was discussed during that process was a competition natatorium, and that's what this is all about. The district made a decision to issue a request for qualifications for management services, and Johnson County Parks and Recreation District submitted a statement of qualifications, and Dr. Southwick and Bob and their team picked Johnson County Park and Recreation District. Makes a lot of sense because the Park District is already has a lot of expertise in the management of aquatic facilities. So you have two, if I could be a bit biased, two outstanding public entities with a reputation for always doing things right. But from a legal perspective, there's still a policy question, and that was, is there a way to share costs in managing this center that utilizes the strengths of each party and that benefits each party? And for now, before the thing is constructed, is there a way for the parties to commence collaborating now so that on day one, we're going to have outstanding operational plans? I'm happy to report that the answer to those questions is yes on all fronts, that it does make a lot of sense, and I think we've been able to construct an MOU that answers those questions. I think it answers all of the key questions, but I want to emphasize that once there's construction plans in place, once we know more about this building, there'll be a comprehensive management agreement that will encompass the key points that are agreed in the MOU. There'll be other points that we lawyers kind of like to call boilerplate, but the key points are addressed in this agreement this evening. This would be for a 10-year term, renewable for subsequent 5-year terms. We're talking about the comprehensive management agreement now as agreed in the MOU. Would be terminable on 6 months written notice. Shawnee Mission School District would have scheduling priority. There would be no usage fees for Shawnee Mission School District teams or tournaments. The district would also agree to work through its athletics director with Parks and Rec to make sure that its scheduling was handled in a way that other scheduling was maximized, that could generate other revenues that potentially would help operate the center over time. What you have here is a means of creating a national, potentially nationally recognized or regionally recognized natatorium with the costs that are handled as efficiently as possible. And I think that's what the MOU does. The MOU addresses what's called pre-opening management services. And here the key is that the parties agree that they're going to collaborate on these items so that on day one we've got an outstanding operation. So there's an agreement to begin collaborating on programming, on safety issues, on scheduling, on developing plans for use and rental of the facility, on soliciting partners to help support the facility, on marketing, on a daily operation plan, on regular biweekly meetings, on operations development. This is before this thing even goes up. So you've got a great, great start with two entities that I think know what they're doing and have a proven track record of delivering. Then we get into the post-opening comprehensive management services. And again, this will be handled in the comprehensive agreement, but what you have here is the district saying, we will be responsible for constructing this facility. And we will be responsible for all the building operation costs. And then you have Parks and Rec saying, because they have the expertise, we will be responsible for the programming operational costs. And again, they have a lot of background on this. The fees are structured in a way that there's a very small management fee, which would be recoverable by the district, and then an agreement to share revenue. The various expenses that would be borne by each side, I think are pretty obvious, but they're set out in the MOU. The district will handle building operations. Park District will handle programming operations. So you have this, I think, really gotten off to a very strong start. And the MOU, I think, answers all of the key questions. There'll be other things that'll be handled in the comprehensive agreement. But I want to compliment Dr. Southwick and Bob Robinson and Jill Geller and her team, Ernie Baldwin, counsel for the Park District. There was a real spirit of collaboration which creates the right platform for success here. So I think I'm going to stop for a moment before I take questions, if that's okay. Dr. Southwick, do you want to add anything? Or
I would ask if Jill or Rhonda have anything they'd like to add. I know I'm coming to your place Wednesday night, so
I absolutely have a few things to add, yes. Dr. Henson, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Southwick, it's absolutely my pleasure to be here tonight. We are so excited for this partnership, and if you would indulge me for just a few moments to talk about our history. Our history of partnership goes way, way back. In the 1970s, before Johnson County Park and Recreation District had any facilities of our own, we did all of our programming within the Shawnee Mission schools. In the 1980s, you might recall, we came together for this innovative idea of offering after-school programs within the schools, a program that is so successful yet today and for which we continue to be recognized at a national level for the services that we do there. We're pleased to provide facilities for the meets and practices of your cross-country teams, your golf teams, and now we get to partner on a brand-new state-of-the-art aquatic center that's going to provide great services to your district, to the county, and that we think will be recognized nationally. So it's just a wonderful partnership. I want you to know it's our priority and it's our intent to manage this facility at a level that not only meets your expectations, but exceeds them. As Mr. Logan mentioned, our staff are partnering right now with district staff to work on design, to look at things that will maximize the use of this facility, not only when the school district's using it, but when the school district's not using it, so we can really program this at its maximum. As Mr. Logan said, my colleague Rhonda Pollard is here. She's the Superintendent of Recreation, has been working very closely with you all and will continue to do so. And lastly, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. Our board will be discussing this same item on Wednesday night. Dr. Southwick will be there. But based on our long and successful past partnerships, I have no doubt that we're looking to a great future for this aquatic center, and I thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you.
So with that, I will ask members of the board if there are any questions about the MOU that you have before you.
I don't have any questions. I think it's, once again, a great example of community and what we are in Shawnee Mission and Johnson County Parks, like what you've heard, that we really have partnered very successfully. And with that, I would move approval of the Memorandum of Understanding for the Aquatic Center Management Services.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Mack. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Madam Chair, I will just say that I look forward to seeing you all next month when we will come back with the revised TIF policy. So thank you very much.
And if I might just say, I want to echo what Donna said. I think what makes this project is so great, you've got a community that supported it being built, and we've got 3 of our entities in our area that have worked together, committed to bring this thing to fruition. And that doesn't happen every day. So, again, I look forward to continue to work with Lenexa, with Jill and all of her staff, and with all of our staff. And when we open this thing, it's going to be a proud day in the Shawnee Mission School District.
Thank you, Dr. Southwick. Hold on here. Stuck on the memo of understanding, so let me get back to it. Okay, S1. Dr. Hinson.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodburn. Annually, you have to vote to say to the state, we're going to do what you require us to do. 1,116 hours. It's actually not that easy. And so why did we start on a Friday? Well, there's a number of hours we have to get in with those days. When we have buildings that we're moving into and we release early, and so we reduce those hours, it's another issue we have to navigate. But this is your official pledge to the state. We're going to do what we're required to do.
Your motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Ms. Seela? Thank you, I think Dr. Denny had the second.
Okay.
Terry, did you get that? Ms. Seela, Dr. Denny? Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. S2, approval of the revised board policy GACCA, staff ethics and conflict of interest. Dr. Hinson.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodburn. Clearly understand you have 2 through 8 that you've had in front of you with the strikes and the additions. I will just briefly highlight some of these. On to GACCA is the only policy before you that did not come to us from our policy services from the Kansas Association of School Boards. As staff looked at this issue, we realized that most significant issue on this policy is that we needed to add a paragraph. And in that paragraph, in the event a relative is hired for an extracurricular coach or sponsor position, the subordinate relative may be supervised but not evaluated by the higher ranking relative. In cases of this kind, the subordinate relative will be evaluated by the building athletic director or a member of the building administration team. And so that's the significant change. There's a couple other words that have been added or deleted there for just clarification purposes, but that's the significant addition. Again, this is the only policy that didn't come to us directly from the Kansas Association of School Boards Policy Services.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Denny.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Seela. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, S3. Dr. Hinson.
I always hate to say to you, well, you don't have a choice, but you really don't have a choice. And so the emergency safety interventions, as you know, this has been on the books for a couple of years now. Some changes have been made, and mine just disappeared from my screen. Some changes have been made at the state level which impact us, so this is one of those that's mandated for us for adoption. There have been some clarification of some definitions and some expansion on really the process that occurs, but this is in relation to what we fondly call ESI, which is a very extensive reporting process to us as well. And so this is one of those policies that KESB sent to us to say, you don't have a choice, you have to adopt this.
Okay.
Move approval.
Thank you, Ms. Bisfield.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Any further discussion?
Well, it's not really a discussion, but the way you phrase this, and so we don't have to repeat, are all the rest of the policies mandated by the state as well, Dr. Hinson?
A couple more are mandated and a couple more are recommended. And so I'll just briefly comment on that as we move forward.
Okay.
I think we'll handle them all individually.
That's
Okay.
fine.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, S4.
4, it clarifies harassment and discrimination in relationships. Those are the changes from KESB.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Denny.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Seela. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. S5.
The significant change here is a change from electronic cigarettes to nicotine delivery device. I think you probably understand why.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms.
Second.
Mack. Thank you, Mr. Stratton. Any more comment? No. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries 6-0. We move to S6.
student privacy policy in relation to trying to align, again from KESB, school board policies with what's been required of us from the state level.
Move approval.
Thank you, Ms. Sela.
I'll
Second.
second.
Take Ms. Bisfield. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. S7,
This policy in relation to truancy clarifies, outlines, and adds some requirements in relation to the waiver of compulsory attendance requirements. So we finally call this our truancy policy.
So moved.
thank you, Dr. Denny.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. I'll take Mr. Stratton's that time. Thank you. Any further comments, discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. And lastly is S8.
JCDAA number 8 is very similar to GAOC, and one of the primary purposes here, again, is moving away from the definition of electronic cigarettes to nicotine delivery devices.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Mack.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Sela. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, we move to U1.
Dr. Ziegler is going to provide an update for us tonight in relation to U1. She will stay at the podium also tonight for the Jumpstart update. I do appreciate Dr. Ziegler, I'm going to call it pinch hitting for us tonight. Dr. Strike's family experienced a very unexpected death in his family, and so he's with his family tonight. And so Dr. Ziegler said, hey, I'll do that tonight as well. So I appreciate that very much, Dr. Ziegler. But give us an innovation update and tell us what that really means, please.
All right, give me just 1 second to get up to speed. So it is my pleasure to be before you tonight, again sharing some updates on what's happening in the area of innovation for the district. So I'm going to focus some of the updates around 2 specific areas of our strategic plan and where the efforts that we are looking at growing and expanding programming and opportunities for learners may fall. Those specific areas are under Theme 1, Academics, where we have a number of goals that specifically look at exploring expanded programming, the areas of career and technical education, before and after school, opportunities for learners, STEM, virtual learning opportunities. We also have an academic goal written to provide expanded learning opportunities through expansion of post-secondary opportunities and industry partnerships. So those are 2 key areas that we focused around innovation and possibility for the district. A third goal falls under Theme 3, which is community and marketing. And again, there you'll see a relationship to expanding partnerships that support district initiatives for classroom instruction and school activities. So what I will share tonight are some of the progress that's being made in conjunction with those goal areas on the strategic plan. So with partnerships, grants, and funding, we have had a very busy grant season. And I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to focus. I'm a little bit competitive, but to be able to go out for some of those opportunities that possibly will expand opportunities for our learners and not limit us due to circumstance of what we may face financially. So it's an exciting time. But I will also give you the caveat of Carol Dweck, great researcher. She's brought a lot of information on mindset and mindfulness into our learning in the district. She talks about the power of yet. So what I'm sharing tonight, I'm cautiously sharing because we are not yet funded, but we have been busy writing grants and chasing down opportunities. So not yet, but soon, hopefully. So along the lines of those partnerships, Joan Levins shared tonight about the Green Schools grants. Those are yet. Those we can say we are celebrating, and those are 11 funded opportunities for our schools. So working with Joan has been a joy because we have gotten to spend quite a bit of time looking at her role in the district and also my role in focusing on innovative opportunities, and so there's been a great deal of collaboration. We were able to work together in developing a vision with the principal at Marion Park, Sho Druin. And we had the opportunity late in May. Grant proposal was due the day after Memorial Day weekend, and we submitted an initial proposal, an idea, about Marion Park Elementary as a community schools initiative. So really looking at some of the work that started at Marion Park, they implemented the FAST program. They were one of the sites for families and schools together, which really looked at partnering and engaging our families into the school and meeting all of our students' needs. It's kind of the community schools focus. But FAST provided services for 10 families. It's a great program. It was an awesome partnership in the district. But SHOW wants more. SHOW wants to grow opportunities. So we had the opportunity through Kauffman Foundation to put in a proposal. We received information in June that we were invited to submit a full proposal. So the initial went in May, the full went in the last week in June, and we are not yet announcing anything, but we are awaiting notification of their decisions. So that is in the pipeline there. We also just submitted this last week in conjunction with our partnership of Kansas State University, and I briefly mentioned it in our last meeting, a grant to the National Science Foundation. That was finished, and the button was hit for the online submission August 10th. And what I'm excited about is a STEM focus. It's STEM right from the start. It's expanding on evidence-based models for project and problem-based learning, but it's focusing at the elementary level, and it's on life science. It's about building possibility and curriculum for students to be studying in a project or problem-based format around life sciences, food security, which would pipeline into our global systems program, research, medical research, looking at curing diseases, which we saw was an interest for some of our elementary learners earlier this year. So what I'm excited to announce there is we do have some key partners that stepped up and issued letters of support, one of those being Cerner Corporation. Cerner has taken the lead and served as an example for some of the others that are listed there on the screen, and they're willing to provide opportunities for our teachers in the summer through externships that would then place them in an opportunity to come back and learn more about project-based learning after they've been on site with a partner, and then start developing curriculum in-house with support from Kansas State. So we're very excited about that. Again, not yet, so that one might take some time to hear back on, but that would potentially start if funded, and it's highly competitive. That's a national program, but it would be summer of 2017. Project Lead the Way. Dr. Henson referenced the expansion of that. I'm excited to share with you that our first building implemented full building-wide training. That was Santa Fe Trail last week. I was there with the staff. They were amazing. So we trained an additional 26 lead teachers this summer. So every one of our elementary buildings has a lead teacher trained, and we are now rolling out all schools, all teachers. The curriculum is arriving. It is being unboxed. And so we've got a lot of enthusiasm to provide that across the district. I would be remiss to note that, again, that was partnerships through our community and our education foundation that made that happen. So as the awards were coming in, as the funding was announced throughout the board meetings over the last 2 years, those dollars are helping us do more and expand this awesome program. So just a few key there. Casey STEM Alliance helped provide support for professional development. Our Education Foundation was a great partner and brought additional organizations to the table. First National Bank was a tremendous funder over the last couple of years. Bayer Animal Health, I believe we just approved another donation from them again tonight. That'll be 3 years consecutive. So we're excited about that. And then also our Shawnee Mission Area Council PTA contributed as well. We're very excited. Also this year, we're expanding computer science and principles of engineering. Those are both Project Lead the Way programs. So the 5 high schools all will have those introductory courses. So students are not traveling from one building to the next to get the intro courses. It is available in all buildings now. Again, partnership through Casey STEM Alliance and our Education Foundation made that happen. So exciting times. Some additional projects that are also in the works, just to make you aware. We began last spring, and I was charged with co-chairing the Character Education Task Force. So we are finalizing the report, and there will be some additional work that comes from that in the area of curriculum development. But the teaser is the task force did land on 3 character traits they felt very strongly about that should be uniform throughout the district, and those are respect, responsibility, resilience. Resilience is a key term that keeps popping up. We hear about trauma. We hear about Resilient KC as a great resource. We have administrators receiving training, we have schools receiving training in that area, and we also had the opportunity that came to us last spring that brought an opportunity to pilot in several of our middle schools, and that is a violence prevention program. Now, why would I bring that up? It's related. So, violence prevention program in this case, one of the partner organizations that is focused on being preventive in violence, had the opportunity through grant to bring us the Green Dot program. So 2 of our middle schools have started training on that. It's teaching kids the character trait of respect and responsibility and how to be an upstander, not a bystander. So it truly is prevention, but it does link into social and emotional learning standards and character. So we're excited about that. Now think for a minute about gaming. EdCoda is a new startup that has ties to the Shawnee Mission learning community, and they have come to us, and we are exploring opportunities to partner in their educational gaming development, which will provide access to our schools and students to a gaming platform by which curriculum can be delivered. So it is truly an innovative possibility and project, and so we are working through some middle school math curriculum development in their gaming platform. See how it goes. So that's another possibility for the future development. Had the opportunity to join a Kansas team. There were 5 of us that represented the state of Kansas at a recent convening by Mozilla Corporation. Mozilla Foundation, they brought together 10 different states interested in learning more about competency-based education, which is what we would call standards-based education. And we do have strategic plan goals written around standards-based learning, K-12, in our future. So I had an amazing opportunity a few weeks ago to go and hear what's happening in other states. And it was tremendous, the networking, to meet with high school principals that are implementing programs in these areas and learning from them, but also serving as part of our Kansas representation. That was in partnership, and the opportunity came about through Joan Levins and her connection with a group out of the University of Kansas that looks at strategic community engagement and partnership, and also has a lot of expertise in after-school programming, where some of these types of models are popping up across the state of Kansas in after-school programming. So more to come on that as a possibility. Johnson County Community College and the University of Kansas Degree in 3. It's an advising opportunity. It's bringing additional information and support to our students in that pathway to college and providing opportunities for them to make meaningful course selection in areas that they might be passionate about and help strengthen their opportunity to college degrees. So we have joined the area districts that have gone before us in the Degree in 3 program. It's not an exclusive, but what I see it as an opportunity for our learners to have counseling about different possible college courses that we can articulate credit with in the universities and help them, again, alleviate some of the burden of college degree and finances. So right now we are able to, with our own coursework that was already in our program of studies, align with their biotechnology Degree in 3 pathway. So they would take courses here when they're in the district that are articulated through Johnson County Community College. They can take advantage of advising through Johnson County Community College and then complete a bachelor's degree in 3 years through finishing at KU Edwards campus. That's that possibility. It's opened the door to what else maybe has not yet been developed. And so Mr. Douglas has been very passionate about providing the Blue Eagle program that he's going to talk about, and he's got a tremendous enrollment, so we've opened the door to what else could we do in those areas. So we're looking across all signature programs as possibilities. So definitely more to come on that area. And then I won't go into it, but we received the update on all of the Kansas State University projects and partnerships at the last meeting. Last and most immediate focus coming up for innovation and continued partnership is as we look to the opening of the center, our new facility that will come on board and that will house our signature programs. The statement was made to me today that signature programs really are a very fertile environment for partnership and collaboration, because the nature of our career and technical education programs and our signature programs, we always begin with a tremendous advisory effort and trying to find the best and the brightest in the field to help guide us in rigor and relevant learning opportunities for our students. How do we continue to provide to that strategic plan goal the opportunities when they leave us, that they are college and career ready and ready to go into the possibility of positions in our communities in our metro area? So as we look to opening the center, I'm very excited about the team that I am working with to look at what other partnerships are possible, both internal and external, in spaces and places for learning in that community center that's being built just down the road. So I'm excited about that and more to come. Joan gave a little bit of a teaser. We've had a tremendous number of meetings about possibilities and partnership on a greenhouse that could be dual purpose and focused around the culinary program and extending the urban farm that has been a tremendous resource for the district and our community, but also ties into our global systems program and possibly biotech projects. There's a lot of convergence across the programs that might be possible there. So we'll be looking at strategic partnerships to help us get there. So I am happy to stand for any questions on the innovation update, projects, partnerships, funding, and not yet.
I love the not yet. That is awesome, but very exciting too, all of it.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you very much for that. Wonderful. Exciting report.
We
We'll
ready?
move right into Jumpstart. You're doing Jumpstart?
I'm doing
You too?
Jumpstart.
Ken Shitting?
Jumpstart to kindergarten. So this is our update. We have just concluded a great 3-week time with our Jumpstart program for the summer. And so just to kind of reacquaint you, our Jumpstart objectives, I will not read them all to you, but they're there on the screen and for those that are attending tonight. We really are striving at developing early relationships with our families and our learners and getting to know them, giving them the opportunities to get acclimated into the learning environments for kindergarten. We focus on social skills, social competencies, early literacy, early mathematics skills. And we have always had our eyes set. This is our year 3 of the program and being able to continue to grow the model. So another year of making it a little bit better. Our communications team is amazing. You already know that. And so they have put together a great quick snippet that gives you a window into the classrooms this summer. So I'm going to share that with you just briefly. So let's take a look. Ready?
1, 2, 3, 4. Jumpstart is an opportunity for our newest elementary school classmates to join us and get some exposure to the school, the curriculum, their incoming teachers. So it's a great opportunity for the students. It's also a wonderful opportunity for their families. For some of their families, this is the first time they've had a kiddo attend a Shawnee Mission school, so it's just nice for them to get to meet some of the faculty and see our campus before all the other students and families get here. Kind of helps ease with that kindergarten transition. Our main focus is on those early literacy and numeracy skills, so I'm really working to make sure things like letter recognition and phonemic awareness are addressed. I'm just kind of building that basic background knowledge that they'll need to be successful in kindergarten. But there's also a great focus on social skills as well. We talk about the objectives of effort and perseverance and kindness for each of our students.
Jumpstart's been going on, this will be its 3rd year. So in 2014 is when we piloted with just a few schools. 2015 it really picked up into the hundreds of kids, and then this year we are proud to say that we are over 200 kids that are being served with our Jumpstart program. I absolutely love this program, and I truly believe in its benefits for all the kindergartners, no matter what level they come in at. There's just true growth, whether it be the academic of if they came in being able to count to 10, now they can count to 50. Even more than that is the social and the behavioral and the emotional. Just some of those behavioral skills that they really need prior to coming into kindergarten. I see those expanding and growing throughout the 3 weeks.
It's an amazing program, and it is my pleasure to share some additional data on the expansion of the program. You heard from one of our Shawnee Mission administrative interns, Laura Brogdon, who's with us tonight. So she was a tremendous resource and has been a trooper 2 years in a row and supporting one of our elementary schools. She's a math teacher, teaches geometry at Shawnee Mission West. And I think she gets a kick out of our youngest learners and connecting with them and seeing how math happens at kindergarten as well. So, let's take a look at where we're at this year. To give you the 3-year progression of our expansion of Jumpstart, we began year 1 serving 46 young friends, incoming kindergartners in 3 schools. The data component is important to us because we want to know, are we making a difference? And indeed, if we're not, how do we make a change to have a greater impact? So that first year, we followed our DIBELS literacy assessment. That's DIBELS Next. And we watched what happened fall, winter, spring, and that data came back to the board. Year 2, we served 196 kindergartners, and we also expanded to say, hey, why don't we try a first grade pilot? So we served 36 incoming first graders that year in 12 school sites. And then we added an additional focus in math because the year 1 data was strong in our literacy impact, but we did not see as strong a result that first year in math. So we built up a little bit more rigor in the math component year 2. We did see results that were impactful for literacy and math in that second year group. Year 3, we did not see as much impact in first grade, so we decided to focus our efforts in kindergarten and expanded to serving 232 kindergartners this year. 13 school sites, DIBELS Next and math will be watched throughout fall, winter, and spring. And just to take you back into the data, what we saw in reading and math the last couple of years is our Jumpstart students came in at above their peers, their grade level peers, in the beginning of the year data, and then stayed above those cohorts of at-risk learners throughout reading and math at the different points that we assessed during the year. So fall, winter, spring is our data points to make sure that our learners are staying on track. So again, they stayed ahead of the at-risk population in the cohorts. So this year, we also implemented a change in a kindergarten screening tool. That was a great opportunity to come in and administer to over 2,000 incoming kindergartners as our first Get to Know You that we implemented in May. So in May, for all incoming kindergartners and their families, we invited them to come in for a screening opportunity. So young people got to meet with a kindergarten teacher. We had some areas that they shared a little bit about themselves on, and I'll share that with you. So 8 skills are what we were looking for, and just a quick snapshot of let's get to know each other. So we looked at identifying initial letter sounds, words that rhyme, naming and identifying uppercase letters, lowercase letters, basic shapes, rote counting, counting objects to 5. So we'd show pictures of different objects and see whether or not they can subitize in kind of a quick recognition. Primary colors, and then basic fine motor skills, and a little bit of gross motor skills there as well. So we scored the traits, and that gave us an initial snapshot of the learner. It also gave us an opportunity to talk with families over, there's a lot of learning that can happen in the few months that we're not yet in school over the summer, or it gives us an opportunity to let families know of this Jumpstart opportunity as well. So that's the first time we've had a kindergarten screening tool that was uniformly administered, and again, we're excited that we got to know over 2,000 of our incoming kindergartners. We administered the tool as a part of the start of our Jumpstart with the learners that were with us. So on that screen, I showed you 232 kindergartners. We had 191 students that participated in the pre-assessment and the post, beginning of Jumpstart, end of the 3 weeks. And what we saw in our data is, number 1, we had a question. And the screening tool did not take long to, again, administer, but we saw very little change from the May to the early July. So that was one of our questions. So if we do this again next year, we won't re-administer it at the start of Jumpstart. We'll go with the May screening data. And then we saw gains late July after Jumpstart, that they did make progress in those areas. So we jokingly say we don't teach to the test, but in this area we want our young learners to know their letters, their numbers, and to be able to grasp a pencil or balance and have those skills, that the motor control that helps make them successful. Parent feedback was collected, and we do this every year, and you'll see more of this in the formal report as we get more of the data throughout the year. But what we saw uniformly when we brought the interns together, our administrative interns that ran the programs, the parents, a lot of our parents, and I'm one of them, it's that decision of, is it time to go to kindergarten or is it one more year at home, that we struggle with. That Jumpstart provided an opportunity for our parents to see how learners would do in a kindergarten setting, and it built confidence for our parents, but also for our kids. So whenever parents were concerned and talked to the interns and the teachers about whether or not to start their child in full-day programs, and we're relieved to see how well their children adapted in that Jumpstart setting. The biggest benefit you heard a little bit about in the video clip was parents like that slow entry in. Our buildings aren't the hustle and bustle that they will find those first few days back when all grades are coming together. It's a smaller environment. It's a little bit calmer, quiet setting, but it gives our kids an opportunity to build confidence as learners and future kindergartners. And I shared with you one quote. I've got 2 wishes that came true. My child's happy and they know their teacher. So that relationship was started. So we're very excited that we've had another great year administering and growing the program. And just a snapshot of what it took to get there. Again, Title I funding was provided, so that was about $42,000. Our Shawnee Mission Education Foundation was a great partner again, provided funding, and also helped secure additional funding through H&R Block and a grant of $10,000 that came in. We had 13 administrative interns, which gave our staff that aspire to be future principals or district leaders the opportunity to come and get some of that administrative experience and have some mentoring along the way. We had 5 interns that came to us from the metro area that were Kansas State College of Education pre-service teachers, so they also gained experience, and tremendous partnership through a number of different departments and teams. Our nurses, our food service, on sites that we did not have a summer lunch program. They provided lunch bunch, sack lunches, so our kids would have the opportunity to have lunch, which is awesome. A lot of the families would picnic on the playground and stay and get to know each other. O&M for getting facilities ready, technology, emergency services for radios and safety. And then Dr. Strike was a tremendous leader of pulling the program together, getting all the pieces together, and then debriefing in the end. So future's bright, another great year for Jumpstart. We look forward to reporting back additional results. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ziegler. I appreciate it very much. Appreciate you pinch hitting. As you can see, Jumpstart really expanding for us, going to continue to expand the early education component. Currently, there is a delegation of school district leaders and business leaders from the metropolitan Kansas City area that are working on universal early education, full-day kindergarten. We're a part of those meetings as well, and the goal is in the metropolitan area to expand early education. So I am looking at, from an organizational perspective, what that means for us. It's a huge increase in demand and service, which is fabulous. It's very much needed. But again, I'm looking at organizationally what that means for us. So expect further information in that regard. We received an update today, or some more information about the importance of early education for our most needy children. And so that's information we've made available to you as well. Mr. Bell, we appreciate you being here tonight. You're going to give us an update on family services, health services. I know you have some other individuals with you tonight, so
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to be here with Shelby Rebick, who's the coordinator of health services. Kind of the theme tonight has been partnerships, so we're going to talk about not only our partnership with our departments, but partnerships with the community as we address theme 4 in the strategic plan, which is student wellness, student and employee wellness, in particular today, student wellness. Starting off with our partnership with Shelby. Shelby and I sat down last year and kind of started identifying some of the barriers that we thought existed with some of our families and what we could do to address those barriers. And come to find out, we both wanted to start the same program dealing with immunizations and physicals for our students. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Shelby, and she's going to talk about that program.
Before I start, I just want to say what wonderful community partners we do have in Johnson County Department of Health and Environment and Health Partnership Clinic. They've done wonderful work with our families and our students. Secondly, I'd like to thank Dr. Atha for his leadership on this project, as well as the building principals, the custodial staff, the secretaries, and the school nurses. Without this team, it wouldn't have happened. So Rob and I identified 6 sites. And the Johnson County Department of Health had 3 of those sites. Health Partnership Clinic had the other 3 sites. We were able to perform 75 physicals through JC DHE. 29 of those were immunization-only students. So a lot of these families maybe just needed their immunizations. They were above that 8-year-old cutoff. And so they were able to come in and get service. But those 75 physicals, most all of them received immunizations as well. Health Partnership Clinic, we did 51 physicals. Again, those 51 included immunizations, but we had 2 walk-ins for immunizations only. As you, I've talked to you about before, we have a comprehensive dental program through Health Partnership Clinic. This past school year, we had 22 schools participate and provide 2,672 sealants for cost savings to our families of $164,000. You can see the rest here, 758 fillings, 360 fluoride varnishes, 21 extractions, and those extractions were kids with active oral infections. So you can imagine the academic time saved there. This total has 362,000. The total cost savings identified through Health Partnership Clinic also included the time missed from work, that cost savings, the transportation, fuel savings, all of that, and it was over 600,000. So, and I would like to point out that this comprehensive dental program, there is absolutely no out-of-pocket expense to our students and their families. So what's not covered by their insurance, if they have insurance, is picked up by Health Partnership Clinic.
And we don't necessarily have data to support this, but you can imagine if you're in so much pain that you need an extraction or something like that, how much better you are prepared to learn in the classroom. With the 6 sites, I thought everything went extremely well, and they were successful. We learned some lessons along the way. Whenever you start something new, that's the case. And we did have to turn people away just because of time. But we're excited about those opportunities. We're going to look at doing some things in late September, October, before the exclusion date for immunizations, and also explore future possibilities for physical, stuff like that, for the middle school, high school students who maybe don't have some of those resources to be able to get those. Another project I'm going to talk about is Project Home. I'm excited to be part of Project Home. I would like to recognize Dr. Athan, Dr. Dennis, as well as David Armovich, who started this initiative and then handed the baton off to me this past spring. But Project Home stands for Housing Opportunities Move Everyone. This is with our McKinney-Vento families. Last year, we had 390 students who qualified for the McKinney-Vento program. And David Armovich, who's our social worker, who does the intake and qualification for that program. This year, what we add is through those conversations, he assesses and identifies barriers for those, and then identifies families who we would then invite to our Project Home. You see our mission statement up there with Project Home. And basically what we do at Project Home is we meet at New City Church. We had our first one last Wednesday. We're going to meet twice a month. And this is an invite only for them. And then we have community partnerships who are there. It's kind of a one-stop shop for our families. So you can imagine if you're homeless, you probably don't have access to certain resources, whether it's transportation, childcare, things like that, to go out in the community to see those resources. So we're bringing them all to the same location. So when the families come in between 9 and 11, we have all these resources that are available for those families. Shawnee Mission School District has taken the leadership on it this year, but we truly see this as not being a Shawnee Mission initiative. We see this as a community initiative. If we're going to kind of remove some of these barriers, the only way we're going to do it is if we work together as a community. So this has been a great opportunity for us. I'm very excited about the opportunities. It got off to a good start. We are meeting twice a month. And so hopefully someday you guys could come out and take a peek at it, but I'll go with what Christy said, not yet. Let us work through a few things. Any questions about any of those programs that we just addressed? Yes?
I have a couple questions. First of all, Project Home, is that what Impact Wednesday started out?
Yes.
Okay. Because we had gotten emails about that, and so I just wanted to...
Yeah, initially we started off with that, and then now we're not tied to a date. After this next year, we'll explore a lot of different dates, simply because a lot of our community resources have other commitments on Wednesdays.
Right.
So we're kind of depleting sometimes. We're making a ribbon pretty thin, I guess, to get everyone there. Yep.
And is it only McKinney-Vento families?
Right now, it's only our McKinney-Vento students. Could we grow past that? Without a doubt. But we're kind of starting small. and then building in success and momentum, and then we'll look to see what other opportunities we have.
And then I have a couple questions on the physicals and the immunizations. You said people were turned away. Wow. Were they that's good news, bad news? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I
So-
agree, both.
Yeah.
Rob and I had a lot of discussions about that afterwards, that, this was our first time to do it, and it was Health Partnership Clinics and Johnson County Department of Health and Environment. It was their first time to do this as well. So none of us had an idea of what to expect. So we definitely learned a lot from it. Next time, I'll definitely have a translator there, for sure, because those apps are not real good on the phone. And sports physicals, that was huge. We did not realize the older kids that would come in. So, we'll reach out, we'll break down some more silos here and reach out to Dick Kramer and get him involved in the future. And as Rob mentioned, we are going to try to do this throughout the year.
I just think that's amazing, because now that we have middle school sports, all those kids have to have
Exactly.
physicals. How does that happen? And how does it become consistent throughout the district as far as who's providing a consistent level of service for those who are giving the physicals? Just big applause to both of you. What about, what did you learn as far as families that may need transportation? You had 6 sites. Is there a way to go to people for certain things, or did you bring people to the sites? What did you learn about that with your experience?
Lots of our families mentioned that transportation was the number one reason why they didn't go to a healthcare provider. That's why they were at our schools. And then many other people mentioned that they had transportation to go somewhere else, but this is just where they felt comfortable. So we have had some conversations with Health Partnership Clinic. Down the line, we would love for them to have like a mobile medic van, something along those lines that could, serve more of our population, but we'll continue our work with this.
Well, the first site was Apache, and my concern was no one would show up, build it and they won't come. And we started at 9 and 8:30 with people lining up. So the need is definitely there, and we can address that.
And the other sites, do you remember off the top of your head? Apache?
The sites?
The others- the
Rose
other-
Hill, Apache, Comanche, Shawnee, Neiman, and
Santa Fe Trail.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Done? Okay. So we're fortunate tonight to have 2 representatives with us from Giving the Basics, Michelle Orpin and Teresa Hamilton. You can come on up, ladies. Giving the Basics is a program that provides personal hygiene items. The old food stamps, as you might know it, is now the SNAP program, does not allow for those families to purchase personal hygiene items with those monies. So we've got 2 great community partners here to talk to us.
Thank you for letting us talk about our program. We are incredibly thankful to your school district for allowing us to be able to serve the children in your district that are in need. There's quite a few. It is amazing to us when we go to the city leaders that they do not realize that these items are not covered by food stamps and that there is a need. And also that there is a need at Shawnee Mission School District. They're like, oh, that's the rich school district. They don't need anything. And it's been wonderful between Shelby and David that has helped us bring the awareness to the community that there are children that are in need that need these items. For the last school district, we gave out over 56,000 items to your students in need with a dollar value of around $27,000. So there are children in your district that are needing toilet paper, deodorant, feminine hygiene products, things like that, that are definitely hindering their learning process that we are able to help them with. And it's been an incredible experience. If you get a chance, we invite you to go to our website because Shelby's on there doing a great job talking about how this is changing lives and is making a difference. We had started off with your school district. It was one of 3 other school districts in the Kansas City area. We are now sitting at 14 other school districts, and it was really because of David and Shelby getting the word out and working with the other school districts that we are now able to have so many other schools participate in this program. So we thank your school district, because we would like to eventually do this nationally, and you guys have done an incredible job in making sure this is getting into the hands of the children, and that is the key. And Teresa, did you want to explain how that works with the nurses?
I will. Giving the basics, we are built on the premise of dignity for everyone. So a child is identified by a teacher, a coach, a nurse, a truancy officer. Someone identifies that this child has a need. And then they are sent to the nurse's office. It is not a free-for-all. Everyone can have free hygiene items. After that child is identified, the nurse then opens her closet and says, do you need any of these items at home? The items are then discreetly put into the child's backpack, into the child's locker, so that they can bring those things home. We do not have little special packages or anything for them to identify that they've got a need, which is awesome because we can't talk about dignity and then make them stand out. So that's been a really big thing for us, and your district has been wonderful at helping with that. The main thing that you all have embraced is the fact that not only are you creating wonderful facilities, you've got great teachers, and you've got a lot of wonderful buildings, but you're making sure the kids get the basics so that when they get to school, they're not going to get picked on or isolated, because we have been told these kids were sitting in the back of the classroom, they were not socializing, they were very much removing themselves from anything that caused them to be bullied. Now they are moving closer to the middle or front of the classroom, the grades are coming up, and that was the goal. The goal is that these kids could feel proud of themselves and never have to be in shame. So we really appreciate everything that you all have done to embrace giving the basics, and we are excited to be in our third year with you all. So thank you so much.
You guys have any questions about that? Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Amazing.
We're on U4. Project Blue Eagle?
We'll switch gears now. Mr. Douglas is going to give us an update in relation to Project Blue Eagle.
Give me one quick second if technology doesn't fail me. Project Blue Eagle. Well, it seems like last February or March I came before this body with the opportunity to talk to you about a concept, a dream really. It had really very skeletal plans. We had a concept of what we thought the state would allow us to do or would require us to do. We knew at that point in time there were certain pieces to it, but it's my pleasure to tell you that while last March or April, we thought it would be clear till February before we were able to offer our first class. Those first two classes occurred at 8 o'clock this morning. Now, let me tell you a little bit about our program. And I am extremely proud of it because of the people we've been able to attract, all the help we've been able to get, all the partnerships it's forming, and the potential that it has for our community. Let me start off by saying, as we told you last time, there are three pathways. There are the law pathway, the law enforcement pathway, and there's the fire EMT pathway. In fact, the official designation for the state is LPSS, standing for Law, Public Safety, and Security. Now, that seems like a broad spectrum of things to lump together, all because it has something to do with the law. And when it comes to security, that was just a reach too far. We think there's other places to get that. We have all we can handle with the law enforcement, and fire and EMT. Each one of those three pathways requires an introductory class, and we have created that introductory class, which we have named Introduction to Public Service. The idea that we can create with our students the concept that public service is not only a noble occupation, it's a necessary occupation, and it requires a complete and thorough understanding of our public capabilities and how we work forward with it. And that is the first class we have offered, along with the first elective, which was first aid for first responders. Let me tell you a little bit about the class we've offered today. That's breaking down into 3 sections: the law enforcement, firefighting, and EMT. And they spend equal amounts of time talking about the profession, what its history is, how it developed, giving the kids an idea of why that makes a difference, because so much of what it is today is dependent upon what it was when it started and how it started, and how Abraham Lincoln didn't go to a law school. You didn't find his diploma hanging somewhere. He learned at the Inns of Court. He learned how the law was developed. It wasn't only till later that you formalized it in a public education setting. Or the police department, how Sir Robert Peel created the Metropolitan London Police Department and how it became the police departments that we see today. Or how the fire departments developed from insurance, and how insurance companies formed these fire brigades, which were volunteers, which lay the basics for how they work today. To offset this semester class, we chose to have first responders, or first aid for first responders. And that was a bit of a challenge, because there's special certifications you have to have along with the teaching certifications, which were a challenge in themselves to get for practical individuals of practical expertise. But not only that, we had to have certain certificates that would allow them to teach this class. We expanded on what the state required, and we reached out, and we added 2 comprehensive pieces so that the kids would walk out the door at the end of a semester with a certificate for each. And that is Community CERT, which is Community Emergency Response Training, and Heart Savers. And they will be certified in both of those competencies when they finish with our class. Now, the best piece of all this is we were hoping, when I spoke with you last time, that we would have an enrollment somewhere around 125 to 150, and if we'd gotten that, I'd have been a pretty happy camper. But let me explain to you that this was very popular. We have over 380 students in the Introduction to Public Service, and over 280 students in the first aid course. Even as important, or maybe even more important, is that 50% of those students are young women in an area that has not necessarily been traditionally an area for women. And 40% are minorities. Consequently, the public service agencies that have asked us to do this are very much interested in the folks in the diversity that this school district will provide. I'd like to introduce you to our staff. They were here for a while, but actually they needed to get back and work on their lesson plans, tidying up for tomorrow. They're still a little new at this, so they're still a little jittery about some of that. But I wanted you to know the quality of individual that we're putting out there to do the teaching. And first of all, these are all practitioners with extensive experience for the most part. Mark Kessler has a BS and an MS, 38 years of law enforcement experience, retired deputy chief from Overland Park. He was my deputy chief. He took over for me when I left and was there for 6 months, was a finalist and competitor for the position of chief of police. He's commanded divisions, he's commanded staff in all the divisions of the police department. He is very well versed in all the things a police department does. He's a graduate of 174th National FBI Academy, which in the police department parlance is like going to West Point. I was fortunate to go to that too, as were some others of ours, but only 2% of law enforcement administrators ever make it to that prestigious location. Ed Morrison has a BS and an MS. 39 years of firefighting experience. He's a certified instructor for the National Fire Academy. That's in Gaithersburg, Maryland, where we were before. He would go back there and teach high-angle rescue and difficult rescues from things like cave-ins and car fires and all of these things. He would teach that on a national basis. He was the chief of training for the Overland Park Fire Department for many, many years. And once he retired, he has been doing teaching and testing the technical rescue components for the University of Kansas, traveling all over the state. He's an instructor. He has been an instructor at the Johnson County Community College, coordinating firefighter 1 and firefighter 2, which are the things we will be offering up, as you'll see in just a minute. He has a bachelor's and a master's degree as well. Justin Howe. Justin Howe is our diamond in the rough. While we were looking through all of the rest, we had him apply. And he's not a professional police officer, professional firefighter, but this man has 3 master's degrees. He has a master's degree in criminal justice, a master's degree in education, and a master's degree in exercise science and physical education. He has a bachelor's degree in political science and criminal justice. I had a little get-together for the Blue Eagle instructors before we started, and to meet their wives, and all of us get together. I talked to his wife about this. She said she can't get him out of school.
Sounds like it.
And that he just seems to continue to go. Probably one of the things that you ought to know is he designed and implemented and taught a similar program at Bonner Springs, the law enforcement component part. He did so well, it was recognized at the White House for his efforts. We have also managed to secure him a position in the upcoming January Police Academy. And we did that by commissioning him as a part-time or reserve police officer with our police department, and got him a position in the police academy to gain additional experience so that he'll be able to pass that on to the kids. Julie Oglesby is a current teacher at Horizons, and she's got 11 years of experience. She's working on a master's degree currently in science and school leadership. She has a master's degree of science and curriculum instruction, and she is a graduate of Kansas State University. She will be fulfilling our pledge that all means all. And we had to find a way to be able to instruct the kids at Horizons, knowing we don't even know what that enrollment will be. So she was able to do that. I begged, borrowed, and stealed in talking with Dr. Atha, made undisclosed promises to have Shelby, who's one of our masters of all kinds of hats, as our medical instructor. Now, she won't be doing any of the teaching, but she has been very helpful in helping us figure out what kind of respiration dummies that we need and what kinds of materials on the medical side. And she helps me interview the people we're doing for the medical piece. And quite frankly, I thought it was a nice touch to have a medical advisor as part of what we call our staff. So where do we go from here? We are operational. We are moving along right now, today. And our first kids who will graduate from this program along with high school are in seats today. What we need to do now is move to phase 2. And phase 2 incorporates the law section of our program. Currently, right now, we have law classes scattered throughout the district. We have some at Shawnee Mission East. They have kind of a signature program they've been working on for some time. We have some at Northwest. There's quite a few there. We have various ones at other schools, but not coordinated or consistent across the district. We're taking this opportunity to bring them all together into a coordinated curriculum for the entire district as part of this signature program. To achieve that, because this is a little different approach from the other two pieces, I've spoken with all of the principals. I've talked with the folks in CT. We are working on putting together a committee that will sit down and look at all of the curriculum we have, look at the state pathways, look at what we need to do in conjunction with working with UMKC law and with KU law to try to put a curriculum together that will provide our students the rigor to move forward with a degree in 3 program and accelerated law school program, possibly through UMKC. So we're trying to engineer this curriculum with the idea in mind that we can move our kids successfully and rapidly into the profession that they're looking for. In addition to that, you're going to see that we will be moving back all of the professional classes to the Center for Academic Achievement, or whatever it's named in the future. And we'll have Police Science 1 and Fire Science 1 at the beginning of the 2017-2018 school year. And when we do that, our specialists, which we have hired, will move to those locations and will teach those classes. And the people who are the traditional teachers who will be teaching the law sections or will be working in that group will also pick up the introduction to public service. But the curriculum is all established and ready to go. And for that first year, we should have some capability for these people to help work with them on that particular program. We'll also be taking the criminal forensics course that is currently offered at East and moving that into our elective suite as well. And I got to tell you, with what we're doing at First Aid, I will be really surprised if the enrollment does not grow. You don't have to do anything else but take this First Aid class, and it should be open to every student. But what a great opportunity to get very practical knowledge on how to take care of yourself and your family in an emergency. The following year, we will add Police Science 2, Fire Science 2, Computer Forensics, and IT for the service professions as electives. And we will be able to expand our program and fulfill by the third year, most all of the curriculum requirements to that point. Now, there's some discussion as to whether we can accelerate that to an extent by offering 2 block courses, which would allow them to take Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2 in the same year, which makes a lot of sense because it catches kids up who have not entered in at freshman or sophomore, but would allow that. That's going to take some talking because we're moving into a whole new area. You know, we've only had the bistro moving kids around for the most part, and I'm not familiar that much with Project Lead the Way, but maybe some of that. We're moving to a point where signature programs, in my layman's opinion, are going to be a predominant feature of education at this level. And if we add the ones that we're adding, we're going to need to have a thought about internal transportation to get the kids moved back and forth between their home school and the Center for Academic Achievement. And we can't put this in every school at the same level in every place, even if it were efficient, because the people aren't available of this quality to be able to move them out. So we're going to have to move them to that point. I did have an opportunity to talk one class today, and I asked them if that would bother them going to another school, going to the center for 2 hours a day or 1 hour a day. And they didn't seem to a person to have any issue with that, so we're hoping and banking that will be the case. These classes will be added the third year, and then the fourth year it will round out. It will add the internship components to each and every one of these pathways. It will add crime analysis and that capability. And probably the most distinctive feature is in the fire science area, it will have a postgraduate test preparation phase that will occur in the summer. And the reason for that is, in order to take the test, which they will be eligible to take once they are completed, they need 2 things. They need to be 19 years old, and they need to have more extensive fire tower experience. I spent a lot of time this summer trying to figure out how to do that because I'm reluctant to put 17-year-olds into that fire experience. I mean, they probably could do it just fine, but I'm a little reluctant to do that, and this was the solution. By holding this in the summer, we will give them the preparation necessary to take their test when they will turn 19 shortly thereafter, and we will avoid any issues with OSHA or any issues with juveniles or children in those kinds of settings, and we will push them past that point into adulthood with this particular concept. With a little bit of luck, we're going to have a very good relationship between our police departments, our fire departments, our legal community, and our students, and start building that and working on that from day one. And we have some very significant committees, oversight committees coming together to do that. We've also spent a great amount of time, as Dr. Ziegler mentioned, working on the concept of articulated credit. I was really fascinated by that because the idea of being able to get college credit while you're in high school, you know, at Blue Valley, my kids had an opportunity to do that and got some of that, some more than others, Michael. And consequently, it was a really good thing. But then I got to thinking, we're not a community where every child can afford articulated credit. It's one thing to offer it to them and say, this is on the table, all you have to do is go to this class and you can get it. But what if they can't afford to take it? What if they can't afford to buy it? Because while you get it, you still have to pay the community college for that. So we're looking in ways for exemptions, and I have begun to talk to my contacts at the various cities, and we are starting to get preliminary commitments for scholarships to pay for the articulated credit which our kids could get and start out with before they ever leave school. And these are the kinds of things, the holistic kinds of approaches, which really aim us in the direction of being really career and college ready. Because most police officers and most firefighters get their education incrementally, as I did. I had 2 years of KU when I started to work at the police department. I finished 2 more years at KU while I was at the police department, funded by the city of Overland Park, and 2 more years of graduate degree program while I was a police detective. And that made all the difference in the world. And to get these kids a head start into that environment is a real leg up. So we're trying to cover all the bases, and we're trying to get them what we said we would, and that was a real shot at a career and a real shot at continuing college if that's what they desire. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
I have a question, John, about the postgraduate test preparation there. I mean, if they pass that test that summer, they can be a firefighter with one of our cities?
If they pass that test, they'll receive the certificates to become a firefighter with any city that will hire them.
So some of these schools that have programs for fire and police in our area here, they're going to have to up their program just a little bit? They've got kids coming in with a lot of knowledge.
Most cities don't, or most school districts will do the police. Some do the law piece. Most have shied away from the firefighting side because it is harder to find some of the certificates necessary, and because of the functional pieces of it. When we get to firefighting, we won't be able to have, we've got 30 in some classes for these today. We won't be able to have 30. We'll have more like 15 because the safety requirements require a much closer supervision. In the police side, so much of it is theoretical, a lot of it's the law, a lot of it's, hands-on, but it's a different kind of hands-on, and so consequently, we can have a little larger size. But most school districts that I know of have shied away from the fire end. And ironically, what we're finding out today is a lot of the women who have taken this want to be EMTs. And so I'm already out trying to look for retired EMT instructors to put in our bag.
It's awesome. It's a great program.
Any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. You 5. Such a good go.
Middle School Task Force. The Middle School Task Force, Superintendent's Task Force, after a series of community meetings, tour surveys, a lot of face-to-face meetings among themselves, have made a recommendation to me to appoint another task force. And in their recommendation, they outline some of the questions that they receive from the community and even among the task force themselves to really look for some specific information and really to answer some very specific questions. So their recommendation is not in relation to we want to change our grade level configuration or we want to do this or that differently, but to continue a very deliberate process of investigating the possibilities of what we're currently doing in relation to what is potential for us. So again, and you can read through all the report, but their recommendation is to have a specifically focused task force to really do 2 things. Answer questions, gather additional information, and then how does that task force really engage to a greater level our stakeholders in the process of how do we want to move forward. I've asked Dr. Sumner to lead this task force. Dr. Sumner is a former middle school principal. So he's walked these hallways, so to speak. The goal of this task force is to really answer the questions, gather still some of the questions, provide information. Some of the things that they potentially will do, and they'll gather and determine, but some of the things they may want to do is visit other sites, gather national information, but continue the conversation. I want to emphasize, and I know you understand this, but the discussion of changing or staying the same is a very significant discussion. And either direction will have dramatic impact on us as a school district. So I want to make sure that we're very deliberate in our process. The process, because not only will impact whether we change grade level configuration or we impact our program of studies, it will also have some impact in relation to boundaries, attendance boundaries. If we would move 6th grade to 7-8, and move 2,000 plus sixth graders out of elementary, it greatly reduces the need for elementary attendance area boundary changes. I didn't say eliminates, but greatly reduces. If we keep our middle school structure 7-8, then obviously right now, from what we know, we're probably going to have to make some significant elementary area attendance boundary changes just to handle the growth. So there are ramifications far beyond just are we going to be 7-8, 6-7-8, or what does it look like? Ramifications beyond curricular needs as well, but it's also going to impact boundaries. So it's a very, very significant issue and impacts so many other things in the school district. I want to make sure that as we continue to go through this process that we're really, really deliberate and I'm going to use the word methodical in the process, because the decisions that are made will have an impact on our school district for a long time yet ahead. It's a great opportunity to have the conversation. At the end, we may be 7-8. If we're 7-8, impacts other issues. If there's a recommendation to change, what the process would be, there's going to be a recommendation at some point. It's going to come to me that I'm going to bring to you. We're going to change or we're going to stay the same. And again, that impact will impact the district in relation to that configuration potentially for decades. So the process for that task force is really a couple of fold. One, they need to determine in relation to how are they going to gather information. How are they really going to gather all the questions that are asked, provide the information. But the process that they determine impacts, I believe, the information you're going to want to receive when a final report comes together. So I see those as being dovetailed. So whenever that recommendation comes forth, trying to anticipate now the questions or the information that you would want to have to say, okay, that makes sense based on all these factors, or, we didn't answer this question or ask that question. So I don't want to be over dramatic, but the changing or the lack of changing is a very significant issue. So if we move 6 to grade 7 and 8, that is a major transition for us. Major transition. I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do, but I want to make sure that we're I'm going to go back to the word deliberate in the process. So here's what I'm going to ask from you. So I'll work with Dr. Sumner on the task force. They'll work on their process of, what is it they really want to do. But from you, and I'm going to bring this back to you in September, because they'll meet we need school to really get underway and settle down a little bit, but they'll meet. And by our September board meeting, I want us to have the discussion of what are the things, what are the answers, that you would like to have in the process. And I'm going to give you just a few ideas about that. So one of the things about the process as we get into a major initiative like this, and I can't overemphasize major initiative, in the midst of everything else that you've seen tonight, if we undertake this initiative, what are the things that you want to see? And an example is going to be, do we want to have through this kind of a process that would be automatic for a task force, some type of mechanism that if individuals have questions, they can address their question to be answered through a particular avenue? Maybe it's an icon on our website. I have a question about middle schools, explain this to me. But is there an avenue for those questions to be answered, asked and answered internally and externally? How do we, as a district, truly engage individuals in our community that might want to go tour another middle school that's different than ours? How does that process work? We've had this task force has had an opportunity through the website for people to really weigh in relation to a survey. Do we, on these types of initiatives, want to always say we're going to have a scientific survey conducted by, we've used it before, I'll use a company's name, but to say, okay, we're going to do this scientifically, should that be a part of the process? So those are some of the things that, and I'm going to go back to, do we want to process, for example, through all of the PTA units where they can organize and advertise if parents and community members from that attendance area want to go tour other middle schools? Is that something we want to see? So I want to make sure, and I'm rambling on it, but it's so very crucial to us that it's a deliberate process, that we're methodical in the process, and that it's also a process that when we get down to, here's the recommendation, everybody's had a chance to weigh in. Everybody won't agree. That's okay. We understand that. But we've given a very clear process. People have had a chance to answer the questions in advance. And also a process where you're not sitting here when that recommendation comes to you going, gosh, did we ask this question? That's what we want to prevent in this process of an issue. And this is just one. We're going to have others. This is just an issue that I want to make sure we're very deliberate on the process and very clear how we're going to ask questions, how we're going to gather information and deliver the information. So of all the great things you saw tonight, if we make a middle school transition, it's a monumental task. I want to make sure we're very clear. So in September, I'm going to ask you, so I'll give you an update. That's another issue. So this type of an issue, it's a superintendent's task force. I think in this type of discussion, I give you an update every month. Here's the progress, or here's what this task force did this month, just so you're apprised of what's going on. So it's beyond just the original formation, and let's talk about it, how we want to go. Now it's getting more specific. So when we come back in September, I'll give you an update. They've met, they talked twice, they're kind of formulating a plan. Then I want us to have the dialogue. Here are the issues that we think are important, that our community can weigh in through this method or that method, or information that you're going to want to have, that you make sure this task force gathers the process as well. I'm going to stop right there. Is that muddled, or is that clear?
That's clear.
Questions, thoughts, Brad?
So did this group recommend that they disband, and so it'll be a whole new set of folks around the table?
It's a great question. So they've recommended that the next task force not be their group,
Okay.
but there could be individuals that could be a part if they still wanted to be a
yeah,
part. And they
okay.
could say, hey, I still want to be a part.
Thank you.
Will this be available on our website?
Yes. Yep, we have it available tonight.
Great, thank you.
You know, a thought that occurs to me, and I'm not sure how to put this exactly, but whatever we do, whether we change or we don't, it has an influence on our students and their achievement and the rest of their life, effectively. And so it seems to me that a focus, as all of our focus are, is on what's what's best for the student, what's best for their educational experience, their achievement, their well-being, and those things. And so I don't necessarily think that a boundary change or a larger facility or additions, while they become a component of the discussion, I'm sure, I don't necessarily think those ought to drive the decision as much as what's best for the student and achievement and their well-being. So, and I'm sure that's sort of an instruction you'll give the group as you go forward.
I think that's a great point. The focus is how does it best benefit students? The facility concern one way or another, we'll deal with that, whatever that might be. But this is academically, educationally, socially, emotionally, what's really best for our students through this process. I'll stop there, I've talked enough. But I want to make sure in September you're prepared at the board meeting. I'm going to ask you, okay, give me guidance through this process, because the level of significance of this discussion now, it's really an issue that will have a dramatic impact, one way or another, tentacles for a long time yet ahead in the school district. So when we're finished with that discussion in September, I want a clearly defined process, okay? So everybody knows here's what we're doing, here's kind of the chronological order based on what we know, and everybody's clear on that. Make sense? I missed anything there? Anything on that you want me to bring prior to the September board meeting? Or I've repeated myself so many times, you're saying, please move on to the next issue.
Well, I do have one there, and that is maybe perhaps making one of the representatives from the committee available for our discussion in September too.
Great. Okay.
All right. U6. Move in.
I was going to say not yet, but we are on the last
Yeah.
agenda item.
Yeah.
So on the last agenda item, two issues for you here, just to give you an update. Dr. Gilhouse's office is working with the students in the signature programs, and they will bring back to us in September 3 to 5 names. Hopefully they can narrow it that far. Student suggestions of what they would like to see the new Center for Academic Achievement, that we just applied that name for as a holding place. But we're asking the students, what do you want the building to be called? Over 50% of the square footage obviously is for student use. So we're asking the students, give us ideas. So we're not going to ask you to come up with a name, we're going to ask students to present names to you. So that's going through Dr. Gilhouse's office. Dr. Hubbard's office will be working, once elementary school gets settled down, be working with the students in the elementary attendance areas in the West High School attendance area. Brainstorm on a new, or on the name for the West Elementary School, and brainstorm on the mascot. And then we're going to bring those back to you in September as well. So students are going to work on brainstorming ideas, and so that'll be interesting. So I've been through some of those student engagement processes at the elementary level for buildings. That was pretty easy in comparison. The mascots, wow. And so that gets to be a lot of fun. So in September, we would really like to present range of names, West Elementary School. It'll help us to get that name started attached to the documents and mascot. And then we'll also bring back name possibilities for, again, the tag we put on it, Center for Academic Achievement, but whatever that name's going to be in the future. As a part of the naming rights, we've had 3 individuals that have been brainstorming. Mindy Wilson, Kim Hinkle, and Dr. Ziegler have been brainstorming because we've had some interest in naming rights. What does that mean? And so they're doing research and exploring with the foundation, what's that mean? And so we'll talk about that in September as well. So as the Shawnee Mission School District, if we have an individual, a family, a foundation, a corporation that would like to put their name on whatever it might be, what does a naming rights process or policy look like for the Shawnee Mission School District? So we'll bring that to you in September and talk about, do we want something that's official in place? Is it something we do want, or something that we don't want? So anyway, something else to look forward to in relation to naming rights.
Okay. Super. All right, board comments, V1.
I do have one, now that we've heard all about the fantastic things in Shawnee Mission. I have this week 2 grandchildren starting in Shawnee Mission schools, so it's been a long time for me, and it's great to see how we keep going and growing, and we've gone through some of the things we've just talked about 20 years ago. I think those people are still surviving, and so we'll just need to keep going and keep making it better all the time.
I just wanted to mention really quick, I know the Education Foundation, I see Kim Hinkle back there. We're having our fall breakfast, September 22nd. That's the correct day, correct? Do you want to say anything quickly about it? I'm putting you on the spot, but if you'd like to say a little bit, a plug for the Education Foundation Fall Breakfast, that would be wonderful.
You'll often regret giving me a microphone because I might not ever want to give it away. No, we're very excited for the fall breakfast. It'll be our 24th annual. We're expecting wide community support. We're expecting 1,200 to 1,300 people. So I hope you're all there. The invitations will be going out this week. So look for those in your mailbox. And of course, we have numerous corporate and individual sponsorship opportunities on our website, or you can always give me a call and I can walk you through that process. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's always a wonderful event, and we always look forward to it. So I just wanted to thank you for doing that. I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that, but I appreciate you giving us an update. Anybody else?
I have just one comment, and just kind of a huge thank you to Dr. Hinson, Dr. Southwick, and Bob Robinson. One of my things that I do when I have some spare time is I drive by all of our new buildings coming out of the ground, and we have these amazing programs going on, but that's the visible showing of things going on in the district. And to have 5 buildings, well, potentially 5 buildings coming out of the ground here, it's amazing. And I think that's a lot of balls in the air to juggle. We've kind of done that tag team of we finish one building, then we'll move on to the next. But we have all of these coming out of the ground, so congratulations. You look tired, Dr. Southwick, but.
Only because I am.
Anyway, you're doing an amazing job. Keep up the good work.
Anybody else? Dr. Denny?
I move that the Board of Education recess to executive session in order to discuss personnel matters regarding non-elected personnel and to discuss matters relating to employer-employee negotiations. And we will reconvene at 10:05, and no further business will be conducted following the executive session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bisfield. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. We're going to.